It's time for another Boortzcast.
Well, here I am. It's a beautiful day, a little bit windy, but it's Saturday morning, and I'm parked at an RV park right at the entrance of the Rocky Mountain National Park. And it was my intention to let the Queen go into downtown Estes Park today and do some shopping while I went up there to Bear Lake and hiked around the entire lake. But I just couldn't put on the hiking boots and get out of the Boortz bus until I loaded up the computer and had a few things to say about the shitstorm that's going on after the joint press conference on Fox News Channel Thursday night. Yeah, that's what I called it. And I know I couldn't say that if I was actually on the radio anymore, but I'm not on the radio anymore, and I'm glad that I'm not on the radio anymore. I'm glad I'm on a 5-month trip in the Boortz bus. And when I get tired of one place, I can pick up and move to another. And I'm particularly glad that I have you wonderful subscribers out there who, for some reason known but to God, have decided you'd like to hear from time to time what I have to say about these goings-on. You know who really has me pissed off right now? These myrmidons, these Trumpoids, these Trump bots who think that Fox News picked on Donald Trump during the debate my ass, the joint press conference on Thursday night. Look, he was the leader. He was leading in the polls. He had the center podium. You don't go up there and throw that prick softballs. Megyn Kelly and Bret Baier and Chris Wallace didn't do a damn thing to Donald Trump or any of the other candidates that wouldn't have been done by that Clintonista worm George Stephanopoulos or that load Candy Crowley or any of the rest of them. Tough questions. The first question was brilliant. Will any of you raise your hand if you will not promise to go along with the Republican candidate? It was brilliant. And there's the Donald raising his hand. And when Megyn Kelly asked him about prior statements which denigrated women, she was doing nothing less than any other moderator would have done in a future debate. Donald Trump is a misogynistic pig. I know this from personal experience. I have seen that SOB react and interact with the wives of friends of mine in person. This is not just conjecture on my part. It's something I have watched. And then he goes on CNN on Friday night on Don Lemon's show. Now, how sharp is Don Lemon? Remember that airliner, that Malaysian airliner, Flight 370, something like that, I don't know, that was missing? And that idiot, an anchor on CNN, actually goes on the air and wonders out loud if that airliner could have been sucked up by one of those black holes that we hear about all the time. That is the depth of the intelligence of Don Lemon. But Donald Trump goes on his show and makes the statement that you could see, I'm going to paraphrase it, but I'm going to get one word exactly the way Donald Trump said it. You could see the blood coming out of her eyes and wherever. Now, what really has me upset is some of these Trump bots out there are all over the internet saying, you're lying, you're lying. That's not what he said. He said out of her eyes and whenever. I sat here this morning and I listened and listened and listened, as have other people, to Trump's statement, and the word was wherever. If you're on Twitter, if you're sending emails, if you're telling anybody that Donald Trump actually said whenever, then you are a bald-faced liar, or you are unable to understand the damned English language, and you need to just go the hell away right now. I'll tell you, and you already know what Donald Trump was saying. Megyn Kelly was giving me a hard time because she was having her period. That's it. Deal with it. That's what he was saying. And congratulations to Eric Erickson for telling Donald Trump, don't bother flying your big-ass Trump 757 down to Atlanta for the Red State gathering because you're not going to be on the show. Would you people please try to get smart out there? I know that Donald Trump is saying a lot of things that you agree with. He's saying a lot of things that I agree with. He is dead absolutely right when he talks about the Mexican government getting its most heinous criminals and unwanted citizens and arranging for them to be catapulted across the border into the United States so that they could get rid of them. Do you know during medieval times, during the plague, that when you were laying siege to a castle or a city, that the enemy would catapult rats infested with plague-bearing fleas into cities in an effort to make the people sick and destroy them? No, I'm not saying that the Mexican government is sending criminals over here to destroy the United States. They're sending them over here because they don't want them there, and Trump is absolutely right. Sure, most of the invaders coming across the border are not Mexican criminals. They're U.S. criminals. They become criminals as soon as they cross the border. But Trump says a lot of things that are absolutely right. He says that Obama is a lightweight when it comes to negotiating. He's right. Obama has made the world and America a more dangerous place because of Iran. But you know what? There are other candidates who understand how dangerous Obama is. And these Republican candidates, unlike Donald Trump, actually have a chance of being elected. And that brings us to another thing. These fools out there that continuously tell us on Facebook and Twitter and in interviews and discussions that if they don't get the candidate that they want, then they're just not going to vote on Election Day. Well, screw you. There is no such thing as not voting on Election Day. Sitting at home on your couch, on your fat ass, and not voting on Election Day because you don't like the candidate, because the candidate isn't 100% pure in your political mind, does not mean that you are not, in fact, voting. You are casting a de facto vote for Hillary Clinton or that socialist Bernie Sanders. Sitting at home on Election Day because your candidate didn't get the GOP nomination does not mean non-voting. It means supporting the other side. And we had, about 8 million Republican voters do exactly that in the last presidential election, and that gave us 4 more years of that prick Barack Obama. 4 more years of a president who was raised by every important adult in his life, raised to hate the United States, to despise the United States, to wish for, hope for, and pray for, probably on a prayer mat, the destruction of the United States. And that man got 4 more years to do what he wanted to do when he came here in 1979, 4 more years to work for the weakening of the United States, the destruction of this country, because 8 million Republican assholes sat at home and did not vote on Election Day because Mitt Romney just wasn't pure enough for him. Oh my goodness, he's a Mormon. I can't vote for a Mormon. So I'll just let the quite possibly Muslim anti-American get into office again. Yeah, I said it. I mean, after all, Obama was registered in that school in Indonesia. Under the space it said religion, it said Muslim. His flirtation with Jeremiah Wright's church in Chicago was done for nothing other than political purposes. And he did manage to find a church with a pastor that hated America just as much as he did. Wow, what a guy. If you are holding out for the perfect GOP candidate, then you are part of the problem. You are a huge part of the problem. Participate in this primary process. Donate money. You know what? Most of the people who have a perfect candidate in this race, whether it's Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or Mike Huckabee, whoever it is, I would dare say that 75% of the people who have a perfect candidate never contribute a damn penny to that candidate during the primary race. You don't get out there and stuff envelopes. You don't get out there and distribute lawn signs or flyers. You don't knock on doors. You just sit back at home, drinking your beer or your mimosas or admiring your Alta tennis outfit, and you tell everybody who the perfect candidate will be, but you don't do a damn thing other than that to get them the nomination. And then on election day, if your perfect candidate isn't the nominee, you say, well, hell, I'm not going to vote. I don't like that guy. Do you like Hillary Clinton more? If not, then vote. And here is something you can take to the bank. Donald Trump can not win the presidency. He can't do it. He has the highest negatives of any candidate in the GOP field, and the Democrats damn sure don't like him. In fact, the only thing they like about him right now is the fact that he's causing so much chaos in the GOP race. And then Donald Trump getting on CNN on that blithering idiot Don Lemon show and talking about Megyn Kelly being a lightweight, being a loser. You may have never watched a minute of Megyn Kelly ever in your life. I watch her a lot. I've been interviewed by her a lot. She is bright. She is tough. She is brilliant. And she will not let you get away with any crap. Whether you're friend or foe, whether you're a Fox News contributor or not a Fox News contributor, and why the hell am I not a Fox News contributor? Oh yeah, the sport coat. But she won't let you get away with it. I remember Megyn Kelly interviewing Kirsten Powers one time. Gosh, she's cute. Can you believe that Kirsten Powers actually dated Anthony Weiner? Good God. But anyway, so Megyn Kelly was interviewing her, and she ripped Kirsten Powers a new one. And at the end of the interview, she said something to the effect of, the next time you're on this show, have your facts straight. I love Megyn Kelly. She is tough as nails and smart as hell. And the other GOP candidates agree. And then Donald Trump, Mr. Comb-Over, gets on TV and talks about what a loser she is. Then I get these tweets all the time. Well, you liked Mitt Romney. Well, you like Jeb Bush. I like all of them, most of them anyway. Mitt Romney, what an amazing record of success he had before running for president. Do you remember the Salt Lake City Olympics? They were in crash and burn mode. They were on the edge of abject failure. They were pretty much in the same disastrous state of affairs that the United States is now, and pretty much for the same reason: corruption and mismanagement by the leaders. And then Mitt Romney comes along and saves, salvages, resurrects the Salt Lake City Olympics. That is not an easy thing to do. That is exactly the type of management ability and brain power we need in the United States to pull our country out of a precipitous decline and set us back onto the road for greatness. But no, the purest Republican voters sat on their ass on Election Day, and because they sat on their ass, an ass got back into the White House. Do you know that we have 93 million Americans in that age range where they should be or could be employed, they could be working, who are not in the labor force anymore? 93 million. That is the highest percentage of the workforce not working since, I believe, World War II. I know for almost 40 years. And by the time asshole gets out of the White House, that figure could very well be near 100 million Americans who have dropped out of the workforce. They've dropped out in many cases because The federal government simply makes it too easy for them not to work anymore with all of the amazing welfare benefits that are now available to them. And then many have dropped out because they simply got sick and tired of looking for meaningful employment. It's just not out there anymore. It is so impossibly difficult to start a new business in America today, with all of the regulations being heaped on business by the EPA, by the Justice Department, by all of these pencil-necked geeks up there in Washington, these regulators in their cubicles, in their little groundhog colonies, eager to write new laws to please their bosses so their bosses can go to their bosses and say, look at all these wonderful new regulations we've put out there. Aren't we doing a great job? Just about 10 days ago, the Wall Street Journal had a profile on some guy that formed I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of small banks in the United States. You know what? I love small banks. I love small banks where you go in and they know who you are and they know your financial history. I used to deal with a small bank in Atlanta. I still remember the banker. He was great. His name was Scott Robinson. Can't remember the bank, though. But I can tell you how my relationship with that bank was. That is, if I needed a small loan for a capital acquisition for my law office, or if I needed a loan to buy a car, I would call Scott. Hey, Scott, I'm over here at the car dealer. I'm going to buy this car. He said, go ahead and write a check for it, and then come in here sometime next week, and let's get the loan papers all done up. You can't find small banks in America anymore like that. And the entrepreneur that formed so many of those banks, well, he sold his holdings, but then decided, you know what, I'd like to do this again. But he took a look at Dodd-Frank. He looked at the other people who were trying to open small community banks in America, and they were telling him, you can't do it anymore. You can't do it. You have to have $50 billion in assets before you can afford to hire the number of people it takes to complete all the paperwork every month, every year, just to comply with Dodd-Frank. It can't be done. So what did this entrepreneur do? He went to Great Britain, and they don't have the onerous regulations over there. So what's he doing? He's opening small community banks all over Great Britain. My friends, that is what's happening in this country. People are dropping out of the workforce because nobody can get a loan from a good small bank to start a small business to employ people. Is that the America you want? That's the America of the Democrats. That's the America of Barack Obama. And that is a tide that could have been turned around by Mitt Romney. But you didn't like him because he wears funny underwear. My God, I'd hate to be married to one of you jerks out there that is insisting on the 100% pure, perfect candidate. I would have to spend my entire day wonder what I'm doing today that isn't meeting up to 100% of the expectations of my spouse. Oh my God, she's going to leave me. He's going to leave me because I'm not 100% perfect. Thank God I have a queen that recognizes my imperfections and tolerates them. Well, most of them. Hell, she'll even laugh at the occasional fart if it sounds odd. So Jeb Bush isn't good on Common Core. Well, he damn sure did a good job as governor of Florida when it came to the economy and when it came to producing jobs. If he's the candidate, put him in office and make it clear to him that you want reduced federal control over local education. He's the kind of guy who will listen. So, Marco Rubio does not believe in rounding up every illegal Mexican invader in this country, putting them in green buses and shipping them back across the border. That is a realistic attitude on the part of Marco Rubio, because that can't be done, folks. Get used to it. It can't be done. We're never going to round them up and send them home. What can you look for in a candidate? You can look for a candidate who will never, ever allow anybody who came into this country illegally to have the privilege of voting in a federal election. Look for a candidate that is going to require E-Verify. Look for a candidate that is going to make it a crime for anybody to hire somebody that they know is in this country illegally. Maybe you don't like Mike Huckabee. Maybe he's a little bit too religious for you. Maybe you don't like his stand on abortion. I know I don't, but you know what? He's pushing the fair tax, and the fair tax would still be, and I've been on that for 10 years, folks, and I haven't found the flaws yet. All it takes is people, voters, tax revolters, tax revolutionaries to make a candidate, a president, a politician toe the line on the fair tax. Mike Huckabee could be your guy. The largest transfer of power from government to the people in the history of this country. That is what we need to save America. A massive transfer of power from the government to the people. Make the people reign again. Make the people sovereign again. Make the people mean something again. And you're not going to mean anything if you are simply some myrmidon out there who is going to give up, throw their hands in the air, shrug, turn around, and walk away if your perfect candidate is not the nominee. Scott Walker. I told you the other day, I like Scott Walker. He stood up to government employee unions, and then he said a woman in fear of her life should not be allowed to have an abortion if that would save her life. You know what? He may feel that way, but that is never going to become the law of the land. Never, ever. So if Scott Walker is the nominee, guess what? I work for him, I contribute to him, and I vote for him, even though I so vehemently disagree with him on that one issue. Because you know what? I know that is his opinion, but it is never going to become law. You want a tough candidate? You want a candidate that's going to take it to the Democrat caucus? You want a candidate that's going to take it to Vladimir Putin and is going to take it to the weird beards, Iranian, Middle East, muzzy murderers? Ted Cruz. There is a tough SOB. Is he perfect? Oh, hell no. I disagree with him on some issues. If he's the nominee, I'm going to support him. I am not going to crawl in a mattress bag and zip it up and tell you to wake me up when it's all over. Because you know what? It is going to be all over if that corrupt, dishonest, completely disgusting Hillary Clinton becomes the next president of the United States. Accomplishments? None. Well, wait a minute. One. She gestated for 9 months and produced a child. The only significant accomplishment of her entire existence. Okay, Bear Lake awaits. I have yet another Boortzcast I want to hit you with over the weekend. One of them for my Atlanta area listeners. This investigation by Mike Bowers that shows that DeKalb County is rotten to the core. The acting DeKalb County CEO, Lee May, says, oh yeah, well, let's get this investigation over right now. I want it over in 3 weeks. How long before Lee May starts yelling racism about Mike Bowers? Then another article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution today. Many seeking school choice can't obtain it. Some districts have more applicants than available spaces. Damn it, Republicans, would you pay attention to this? I've brought this up before. In inner cities, we have parents begging for, looking for school choice. The picture used by the AJC today shows a black woman leading her little girl away from a school bus. Where's the father? God knows. But in any way, this is a woman that wants a better choice of where to send her child to school, especially in Georgia, and double secret, especially in the Atlanta area, where the schools aren't worth the dynamite it would take to level every single damn one of them to the ground. Why can't the Republicans spend as much time pushing for school choice as they do pushing for outlawing abortion. Find the candidate. Find the candidate that pushes school choice. Okay, I've got a stack of notes for a podcast later, and I've got a lake that needs hiking around. And you know what? I have a concealed permit. And I know that there are bears around here because we've seen them in the RV park and we've heard the car alarms at night when some fool leaves his to-go bag in the car and the bear sees it as a meal. So since I'll be hiking alone around Bear Lake, I'm packing. And I'm just saying that so that the liberal candy-ass weenies out there will get their bowels all in an uproar. Okay? As they say, get it? Got it? Good.
That's it for now. Neal is slithering back under his rock. You'll be notified by email and on Twitter when he crawls out again to share his wisdom. Thanks so much for subscribing.